same thing we do every time.
It's
just no edit.
Basically, we got a little impromptu show for you here. We're gonna watch the
debate.
The debate. I mean, it happened last night, but we're both going in raw. We haven't watched it.
Raw dog.
Raw dog. And figured we'd have a couple drinks the next morning. Yes, it's morning. We're drinking. But I mean, you got to get a little used to watch it, right?
Well, DNC was all about vibes. We're just trying to
keep up with the vibes.
Pass the vibe check.
So, little big truck lager here.
Yeah, big truck.
You got a little whiskey.
Representing Junior with the Big Truck Brewery. There it is.
All right, so let's fucking go, man. Any initial thoughts? What do you got?
No, like I was telling you, so I purposely didn't watch it, and then just looking through just my feed and stuff, looking at different things, there was already tons of comments that I already have an idea of what we're going into. But no, I got nothing.
I got nothing. Kind of like what you said, like the comments could be whatever. I mean, they're all over the place. Republicans are going to say Trump won. Democrats are going to say Trump lost. Vice versa. It's going to be all over the place.
It's like everybody's saying Trump did a really bad job, even Republicans.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So anything. So what I saw was that from a moderator standpoint, it kind of felt like a 3v1. Like everybody was against Trump, all the moderators, and then they were kind of like softball serving Kamala and answering a lot of the questions for her. Is what I've read.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Yeah.
I know they even going into it, they showed ABC's news coverage of the Trump campaign versus Kamala, and the percentage of negative to positive between the two candidates was ridiculous. It was like 94% positive.
Negative to positive. Oh, like
94% positive for Kamala and 3% positive for Trump. Like that's the light.
The way the viewers were
not the way the viewers, the way the actual news coverage of Trump was.
Oh,
like instead of saying Trump hugged a kitten today, like they would cover the fact that Trump punched a kid in the face.
Negative of his thing. Got it.
Exactly. So let's fucking go here. That's not going to work, is it?
No.
Let me get the audio.
All right.
Sound is working.
Back. Donald Trump.
Here we go. Debate.
Play. The ABC News presidential.
Every time I see this dude here, I can't remember his name, but he just reminds me of a poor man's Clark Kent.
Special. The most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
We will chart a new way forward.
Yes, we will.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Sweet.
Historic. The ABC News presidential debate.
Epic, dude.
Fuck yeah.
David Muir and Lindsay Davis. Good evening. I'm David Muir, and thank you for joining us for tonight's.
This guy's the poor man's Clark Kent.
I just throw some glasses on him. Fake ass Superman.
Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump are just moments away from taking the stage in this unprecedented race for president.
And I'm Lindsay Davis. Tonight's
It's weird. They almost look like a younger alternate version of Trump and Kamala.
Yeah. This is her first debate since President
That's funny.
Biden withdrew from the race on July 21st. Of course, that decision followed his debate against President Donald Trump in June. Since then, this
I like this setup, dude.
With the big TV is nice, but we don't get the wide view from the camera.
With 2 commercial breaks, no topics or questions have been shared with the campaigns. The candidates will have 2 minutes to answer questions, and this is the clock. That's what they'll be seeing. 2 minutes.
Oh, they got a shot clock. I like.
Yeah.
2-minute warning.
Responses.
They said they had Hillary Clinton in there prepping.
Turn to speak.
Kamala Harris. That's awesome.
Here tonight.
It's still the Zach Galifianakis Between the Ferns. That interview is so awesome.
That was good.
President Trump won the.
She earned a couple points in my book for that interview.
Oh,
like,
dude,
like, she was a good sport.
Definitely.
Selected the podium to the right.
So let's now welcome the candidates to the stage. Vice President Kamala Harris and President Donald Trump.
Let's fucking go.
They should have had one of the buffers.
Yes. Do we need to raise the volume on the
Kamala Harris.
on the feed?
What's up? Good debate.
That's good.
He looks like he's.
Did she introduce herself to him by name? Kamala Harris. Nice to meet you.
Looking forward to
Stupid.
Maybe she has to because he still thinks he's running against Biden.
Yeah.
I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters
He's like,
repeatedly
bitch, we
say
met.
is their number one issue.
He said they never
and that is
met.
The economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
Say yes, bitch.
So I was raised as a middle
I love
class
the
kid.
Yeah.
She always does that a little bit.
The only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition,
That I came up with
the
yesterday.
aspirations,
Yeah.
the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy.
That sounds
Because
cool.
here's the thing. We know that we
Opportunity
have
for all the immigrants?
shortage of
Maybe.
homes and housing.
She didn't say for who.
Yeah, exactly.
Too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given.
Look at Trump
By
said
1,000.
So
Yeah,
that
Trump said 5,000. You know what? 6,000
Yeah.
sounds better.
buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them is.
You know what that reminds me of? Is like,
is actually
what about 6-minute abs? No,
Yeah.
7-minute abs.
There's a woman who helped raise us.
You know the old children's tale from the sea?
She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to startup small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's
Only
economy.
if you're not a citizen
On
already.
the other hand,
Yeah.
his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in.
Hasn't that been long standing? Like, he's not doing that. It's been around forever.
It's pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
Called the Trump's sales tax.
Hers would be no
Which
different.
would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that
Like tampons for men?
would actually
Maybe.
result
Mampons?
for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
It hasn't been 2 minutes yet? Shit.
Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
Right?
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases.
America.
In billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China.
They will be
In
the
fact,
biggest
they
tariffs.
took the tariff off because it was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a.
Hasn't every president, though, had inflation?
Because inflation has,
No.
which is really known as a
I
country.
mean, there was inflation when he was there,
Some
but not as
countries,
much.
We have inflation like.
I know it started to hit pretty heavy during COVID. And I mean, they also talk about, they're going to talk about his job record and like they lost jobs. We're like, yeah, that was COVID. And they're going to say they gained jobs.
What about the
but
ones
that
that
was
made up
COVID.
and during while they were in?
They're going to,
How many people didn't have?
they're going to claim those jobs.
But for every class. On top of that, we have.
They're not going to attribute any of it to
millions of
COVID.
People pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora.
His coma looks a little flat today.
They are
No,
taking
he's
over
doing
the
the,
towns.
he's
They're
doing
taking
the
over
Aurora, Colorado thing.
violently. These are the people that she
that
and
bad?
Biden
We just kind of debunked it the other day on the show.
Yeah.
destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest.
He's going to talk
economies in
about,
the history
he's probably going to talk about the Haitians eating dogs too or something.
Guaranteed. Isn't that real, though?
Border security during this debate,
It's one of those things. That
Vice President Harris.
There might be one or two, and they're making it seem like everybody.
I mean, we could talk about that too, but
Talk about next show.
What Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left
COVID.
us the worst public health epidemic in a century.
COVID.
mean,
Donald Trump
come-
left us the worst attack on our democracy
Yeah, but
since
who started that? Was it Obama?
COVID.
what we have done is
I think it was Fauci in the 80s hashed the plot.
what we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight
She's setting them up already.
is a
Mhm.
detailed and dangerous.
She's gonna lay a
plan
trap
for
for him.
Project
She's
2020
doing the B Rabbit battle where he calls out all his flaws ahead of time.
Elected again.
It would have been better if he did it for himself.
Yeah.
Strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates
You
us.
mean not divide us
And
by
I pledge
race,
to you to
sexual
be the
identity, things
president
like that?
Yeah.
who counts.
President
Cool.
Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it.
He's read
Purposely.
it.
I'm not going to read it.
I 100% believe
He's read it.
I 100% believe he hasn't read it. He doesn't read anything.
Oh, that's true.
Makes no difference.
Now, give me the bullet points.
Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before.
I
We
just
had
hate
the
her
greatest
face. I don't know
economy
why.
Yeah.
hit with a pandemic.
Just
And
wanna
the
punch it?
pandemic was not since
I wouldn't punch a
1917
woman.
or
No,
100
no, no.
I want to.
But you'd hit a bitch.
Anything like
Oh, I mean, no.
we handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs
needs
they got
more
were
credit.
bounce back jobs. These were
Definitely needs more
jobs
credit.
bounced back, and it bounced back, and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy, and the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse, mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually.
Are you talking about the 2025 plan or are they talking about his actual plan?
His actual plan, which I don't know if he's honestly described anything.
Would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton.
It's just a soundbite.
They gave her that to
Many
say.
of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences. Like,
Oh, she's doing the annoyed woman look. Like you're,
Yeah.
like,
Look at her now.
Yeah.
we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a
I
plan.
read that. Not I read. I saw it on
do wanna drill
one of the
down on
YouTube
something
videos that I watched. They were talking about her
Vice President
prep,
brought up,
that
your
they
tariffs.
were
You
going to
responded, and let's
emphasize
respond to this
a lot of
because
facial looks
your
because the
plan
muted
is what
mics,
she
like,
calls
since you can't say like,
She
motherfucker, you got to give the
also calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the
face
board.
looks like a
Recently
foot right
said
there.
You would
Yeah.
double your plan, imposing
An old
tariffs up
foot.
to 20% on goods coming.
Not a
into
young,
this
healthy,
country.
not the
As
best
you know,
foot.
many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs
She's
will
not
be passed on
unattractive,
to
but
the
still
consumer.
foot-like.
Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas,
He's got the sour
food,
puss.
clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000.
I wonder if he smiled more if
Do
his
you
polling
believe
numbers would go
Americans
up.
can afford higher prices
Couldn't
because of
fucking hurt.
tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have, and who's going to have?
She
higher
left like
prices?
lunatic. Seems to be helping her.
The countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I
Yeah,
had
facial
no
expressions are really pissing me off.
Yeah. Like, give it a break. We get it.
Right.
Inflation
You're
rate
overdoing
in
it.
the history of our
Seriously.
country, because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the
Well,
Trump economy
really,
was great. that
5
their
minutes in, I'm annoyed
economy
with her
was
face.
Yeah.
President Harris, I do
Yeah,
want to
the
ask your
expressions are
response
over
to
the top and
President
nonstop.
there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump
Please be clear.
administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve
Like
and
Doritos?
modernize their military, basically sold us out when a policy about China should
Those
be
China.
They're going to be buying chips anyway, but if they're buying them from us, that's selling us out.
competition for the
That seems like it's a good thing.
which means focusing
Is it not?
details of what that requires.
There's a
Focusing
big
on
debate
relationships with
on
allies, focusing
the
on
chips
investing in
that
American
specifically
technology,
Taiwan's making,
race on
and
quantum
having
computing.
selling just to us. Like that's another reason we're trying to defend China. We don't want them getting their hands on all the chips.
Sure.
Blah blah blah. But they make no mistake, they're going to get them.
Yeah, from
They're
somewhere.
fucking China.
Rights. But
So if they're
They're gonna
buying
get
from us, that's good for us, right?
Yeah, maybe we can give them to like the bullshit chips. Give them the Snickle Fritz.
Maybe we can program them with the same bias that like the language learning apps have, and they won't attack us.
Kind of the way they were doing with the Huawei phones.
Yes.
Yeah, do
Here's the
that.
best chips in the world. They just don't attack anywhere over here.
Yeah, and if we want to, we can shut everything you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, they bought their
Seems
chips from
genius.
Taiwan. We hardly make
Taiwan.
chips anymore because
Taiwan.
of philosophies.
Yeah,
like
we do
they
make a
have,
lot of chips now.
policies
That's
like
why.
they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything
What was that?
that she
Well, she's saying that's not true. Which one thing Biden did do is the fucking chips act like they a lot of chip manufacturing, as you can see here in Phoenix.
Yeah.
Yeah, specifically here in Phoenix.
My philosophy, but
Where's this can look? Why do I look like Andre the Giant holding this can? Is this a smaller can?
They do seem smaller.
Like, look at on the.
I know.
Remember when he'd open like a normal
keg.
beer can?
He'd hold a keg of beer.
It's ridiculous.
economics, and he taught her.
Is that 12 ounces?
But when you look at what she's
Yeah.
done,
You're used to drinking Monsters, dude.
Maybe that's what. That's exactly what it is.
of people that are pouring into
Got the
our country
length.
monthly.
That's 16 ounce. I like the length and the girth.
15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump. Thank you. Lindsay.
Why do I feel like just happened? That was weird.
I did glitch.
Were able to kill
Yeah.
Roe v. Wade last year. You said
Fake Kamala. You go
proud to
ahead.
be the pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great
Goes to a future past, Kamala.
Yeah.
in your home state.
Fucking Spider-Verse Kamala. Go ahead.
with regard to your 6-week abortion ban.
Alternate timeline.
Said that it was too short.
Metaverse Kamala.
More than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times.
It was pretty ridiculous for him.
Why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor.
I
of
don't
West
know if that's
Virginia.
true. I keep hearing that.
Yeah, I do too.
West Virginia, not the current governor, is doing an excellent job. But the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that
On
predominantly.
face
do you
value,
remember
I
though-
don't believe
Well,
it.
do you remember though? We talked about it. So Tim Walz, while he was governor, was governor? Yeah, governor.
was a horrible pick, by the way, for our
And
country.
again, we don't know necessarily that it was just his state when he was there, because of the reporting issues that they have and the way they have to explain, you know, the abortion thing. They had like 8 or 9 documented cases of babies being born and then aborted because of mistakes with the abortion process. And so it was the
Somebody born not like talking
9-month
term,
deal-
full term baby. Like
I don't know. They were born alive and then they had to finish the.
I'd honestly
I
have
don't
to
know the
look-
details.
on face value, that sounds crazy, right?
It sounds absolutely crazy, but and again,
This all of a
like,
sudden I gave birth. I don't want it.
Right.
Okay, fucking put a pillow over its face.
right. So I don't know. You know, they say it's viable after what is it, 20 weeks? So
Something like that.
maybe it was like 24 weeks, and they tried to do it and it didn't work, and it came out. I don't know
Okay.
the length of term,
Yeah.
but because of the reporting system involved, and that was one of the big bashes on Walls, is he was in support and he allowed that to happen. My brain goes, okay, well that's horrible, and that guy sounds like a complete
Mhm.
bag of shit. But how many other states had that same deal, and you're attacking him. We're not talking about them because they're
it's convenient. Yeah.
Right. So I don't know the 9-month deal. Maybe he's hearing the same data of they were botched abortions, they were born alive and then had to finish the process. And his brain is just saying, oh, well, that must be at 9 months. Like maybe that's,
if that's the case, I wish he could do it, but that's one issue I'm not.
We should look more into that.
Yeah. He does a terrible job at articulating his points. Sometimes good point, but can't articulate it.
Yeah.
Doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Wow. Did she just pee slap him?
Yeah.
And that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as
for a glass of water.
Yeah.
In over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means.
But it's not his ban. It's supposed to be left to the state, right? That was the whole thing. Is it's based on the state. It's not him saying it's banned. It's,
correct.
It's up to who you elect in your state of what the populace votes for.
Yeah.
And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women.
So does he get the right to tell a man what to do then, since he's a man?
Yes.
Stop using tampons, men.
Yes.
Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot.
Is that real?
I believe that's an anecdotal story that was spread around, and they're obviously using it as a nice little.
Was she in a cab? Did she have a cab voucher?
Did she go from Phoenix Fire? That's something we'd get lectured at.
When Congress passes a bill to put back in
fucking
place
pack strapped to a backboard
of Roe v. Wade,
face down,
as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025,
no, he won't. He can't.
A monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think
who's going to monitor the monitors?
That is a creepy thing that JD Vance was talking about. Like he was alluding to monitoring
should not be made by the
people's like menstrual cycles. Like it was like kind of alluding to it, the fact that like he was talking about abortion. I wish I could recall it right away, but it was weird.
Because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else. And every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states. And the states are voting.
Doctors.
And it may
I
take
think most issues should be left to the states.
52 years, this issue
Less big government.
has torn our country apart. And they've wanted it back in the states.
Like somebody's got an earpiece in her, like, hey, do the head thing. More faces.
Scowl.
What she says is
look like a disapproving wife.
As far as the abortion ban,
look at him like you know he's lying, but you're letting him finish.
But it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well, I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things.
It's up to the
Number
states.
one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free. But they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, JD Vance, has said you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with JD, in all fairness. JD, and I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people.
He's still not answering the question.
Had loans. They can never get this approved.
It's not about loans. It's about abortion.
What she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are.
Do you think the boozy thing is like an act? Do you think it's like a ploy to like all the middle class women who are like stay at home?
All America's wine moms? Yeah, maybe. We say that as we're drinking at 10:30.
Well, yeah.
But we're men, goddammit. We don't have to watch children and do chores. Like, come on.
Not until 1:45.
Yeah, right. Then we got to pick up the kids.
Believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
excuse me, I have to respond.
I have
Another
to.
lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF.
Oh, she did that face. Excuse me?
The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows.
Leader.
I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v.
Answer
Wade,
the question, would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the former governor of Virginia.
He gets way too hyperbolic on these issues. And
Yeah.
to be like, yeah, you can kill a baby after it's a year old.
President Trump, thank you.
I mean, the way she clapped back with the answer to the question, would you veto? Like, that's kind of bad for him.
Republicans,
Yeah.
Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the
Metaverse Trump.
migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration.
Yeah,
This past
borders
June,
are.
President Biden imposed.
They're very careful not to call it
restrictions. We
borders.
know
I know.
the numbers since
Did
then
you see
have
that he
grown
said that
significantly.
you were tasked by Biden to getting the root cause of immigration?
Yeah.
Which is like the technical
Yeah.
thing. Yeah.
For the election to act. And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has
Who's drunk.
prosecuted
Right.
transnational organizations
Been drinking.
for the trafficking of
Oh,
guns
the transnational criminal
human
organization
beings.
says this every fucking chance she gets.
That the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help.
You could have done that bill a
folks
lot sooner than an election year, just trying to get more points.
Yeah.
Would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a
Are
problem.
you trying to say
Is that every politician?
This
Well, I was going to say, are you trying to say that person that's not even an active member of the United States government can make a phone call and have influence over elected politicians? Is that what you're saying?
It actually addresses the problems at hand.
I refuse to believe
But
that.
what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
That's everybody.
Something he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised.
Mm.
And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies because it's a really interesting thing.
Oh no, she's gonna hit his ego here.
During the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies.
Oh no!
Out of exhaustion.
Oh no! This is gonna get him. This is gonna get him though.
Is you.
Are people leaving his rallies early?
Whether they are or not, I don't think it's gonna bother him. And he's gonna. Yes, it's Donald Trump. He talks about his crowd sizes all the time.
Actually puts you first, and I've pledged to use
this is going to be a terrible fucking answer.
Thank you, President Trump. On that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask
Don't.
You, why did you try to?
There's not even a question yet.
So that would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the board.
First, let me respond as to the rallies.
Oh no.
She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go.
Oh God.
And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies.
Okay, you're wasting 2 minutes. You big rallies. Yeah. Stop.
Their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened 3.5 years ago. And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject.
What are you talking about?
What they
oh
have
no,
done to
he's listening.
These millions and millions of people to come into our country.
It reminds me of Anchorman, where he's arguing with Veronica Corningstone, and she's like, "You have ugly hair." And he's like, "Yeah, how dare you?"
I guarantee you that was something they talked about beforehand. No,
they're eating the cat.
He's saying it.
They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in our country.
But that has been reported. So is that real?
As far as rallies are concerned,
you can't
Haitian immigrants.
Oh, I'm gonna pause this for just a moment here.
God, there's so much left.
Well, we can cut it off whenever, but you can't dive into a online right-wing conspiracy thing that nobody in the fucking country cares about, or probably doesn't even know what you're talking about.
Unless that was your pet.
Exactly.
There's one person that cares.
Nobody's talking about that. Is the stupidest thing. Oh, dude. It's kind of like bringing up the Aurora, Colorado thing in my mind. Like
the gangs taking over the apartment complex.
Like only a few people have even heard about that. And it seems mostly untrue.
Yeah.
Probably some truth, but mostly untrue.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the pet thing. That fucking comment about the crowd size fucking got him in a tailspin.
When you mentioned that, you could see him kind of sitting there like he was like starting to get pissed off.
No, I guarantee they talked about that beforehand. Mention his crowds.
Yeah.
How often do you hear him talk about his crowd size?
Tell him he has ugly hair and his crowd size sucks.
Jesus Christ. What else could they tell him that'll fucking get him spinning?
Back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase. Make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes
She's looking at him like he's a sad.
I know. Oh, God.
Oh, you poor man.
This is a bad moment for him.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there had been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed.
Yeah, that was Ohio.
Abused by individuals.
Well, what's the city manager going to say? He doesn't want it to look fucking terrible for a city.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television said my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But
television.
the people on
I'm taking it from
television
the city manager.
The dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
Oh, God.
This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election,
But you nailed it, though. She was looking at him like he was a sad, confused old man. Like, oh, peepaw.
She's had that look a lot for Joe.
This is 2024. It's not.
They probably told her, hey, look at him the way you look at Joe when he starts talking.
She's like, oh, I know that look.
President Dick Cheney and Congress member.
You're right.
Chris Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff,
You're fired.
Star General, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another
She called it a republic.
term.
Good for her.
And when we listen to
Well, democracy's out the window.
Yeah,
Given the way she's on this podium right now.
Not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Just
Thank you,
next question.
Because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people, not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people.
I fired more people than they did.
Just killed, viciously, violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations. Anybody.
He's not wrong.
Somebody's at fault for that.
But to brag about how many people you fired compared to somebody else, that's not a good look.
So he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody.
I feel like I'm tracking that, but he does a terrible job of explaining it.
Yeah.
Fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any sitting president in history by far.
He didn't win the popular vote, did he?
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back
I
to
don't think so. I'm pretty sure Biden won the popular vote.
I think he did, and that's why everybody said it was rigged, because it was those states where the numbers just didn't make sense.
Deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the national
GTS.
Say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah.
It is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And
Biden won the popular vote.
One of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow, and I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get
81 million votes to 74 million.
Destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof, despite their fraudulent statements that they made. Crime in this country is through the roof.
I mean, I agree with that. Crime in this country is through the roof, but compared to the rest of the world,
you know,
the world, Craig.
Part of the problem too is like this is one thing that bothers me is like crime is down here in the United States according to statistics. However, they've decriminalized so many things. Like in California, like it doesn't matter. And there's so many other agencies that don't report anything.
Look at even just the legalization of marijuana in the last X amount of years, 5 years.
Yeah, like, what does that do to crime statistics? And I think it's a net good thing. But like, yeah, crime's going to be down naturally.
Sure.
But then they also, like in California, you can steal up almost $1,000 and no one gets punished.
Yeah, you have people shoplifting and nobody's stopping them, letting them go out because they don't want to.
Unreported. Well, first of all, not a crime anymore. And then there's just unreported crimes because like no one's going to do anything.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, that bothers me about the crime stat. Just use your own fucking eyes to see that. Like this something's fucked up.
Excuse me, the FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818
from the FBI
that they said
no,
turned out to be a fraud.
President Trump, thank you.
I don't believe that.
Well, I think this is so rich coming from someone who has been prosecuted.
Oh boy.
National security crimes, economic crimes, election interference.
She was waiting to say that.
Has been found
It's gonna piss him off even more.
Sexual assault, and his next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear, where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement 45,000.
Bitch, you called for defunding of the police
after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important.
So why is she so worried about law?
Because she's a prosecutor.
And
has prosecuted transnational criminal gangs for human, drug, and weapons trafficking.
The needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our.
Speaking of address, why do no women politicians wear a dress? Why is it always a man fucking pantsuit?
The American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent.
I agree.
And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases.
You think they take Alpha Brain before they go on?
They say, oh, he was.
Because they got to be on point for some of their shit.
I think she just needs to stop drinking for a few hours prior to.
Okay.
Trump, I think he's
maybe
on
some coffee
all the time. Yeah, just sober up.
Documents case. They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all.
I'm so sick of her face and the head tilt.
Victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it. And
she does the head tilt almost like she's forgetting to do it, because you'll see all of a sudden she'll do this. Like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election is taking place.
Let's be clear.
The context in which you were before all things.
Ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who is openly.
Can we be clear?
He would
I understand.
I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly
Has that already been done?
Disdain for members of our.
So what does it matter if he says he wants to do that or not? They're already doing it.
Because they're not doing it, Steve. He's a criminal. A transnational criminal.
My bad. He's a trans criminal.
Stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him.
What if he just comes out and is like, hey, man, I identify
Thank you.
as somebody who didn't do those things.
Boom.
For president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy.
Did you take one or did you not?
They're the threat to democracy.
His ear looks intact. Speaking of bullets to the ear, there's no chunks missing.
None.
Vice President
I think Evander Holyfield would tell you that chunks don't grow back on their own.
His ear's still fucked up.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're talking about the jaw of Iron Mike Tyson versus a bullet. I mean,
The champ.
yeah, come
Yeah. Talking about the champ versus a bullet. I'm taking the champ.
fuck every day.
say that your values.
Why is his ear not fucked up? I just noticed that.
I'd like to see a close up to see. I bet it just fucking nicked him.
Values have not changed, and I'm going to.
It bled more than any head wound. Doctors
Well, I
told
mean,
me.
You've seen it too. I mean, we know that like ears, hug,
Doctors
face
told
bleed.
me. It
Yeah.
bled. I was lucky to be alive.
The most blood.
Hidden
that I've
artery.
seen. Ears bleed a lot, so there could be a lot of blood, even from the tiniest
Just
of
missed his
nick.
ear artery.
Tie-breaking
Ear
vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which
It could have totally just barely nicked him and caused a decent amount of blood.
Sure.
is that we have got to invest.
I need a close up on that ear.
Diverse sources of energy, so we reduce
looks
the reliance
intact
on
completely.
oil. We have had the largest increase in.
Or maybe he just
domestic
keeps that one strand of hair.
That's why
over
he's
that
got the
bar.
hair there.
That one strand, yeah.
Because he's so vain. He doesn't want people to see his scar.
I could believe that.
As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved.
Why does she have to talk about her dad?
To buy our first home when I was a teenager.
Was he not in the
The
picture?
values I bring to the importance of home.
Serious. I'm being serious.
At some point, no, I
Oh,
don't.
I didn't know. I didn't.
Yeah.
Bankruptcy 6 times is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders.
Maybe he died.
Yeah, I don't know. It was a legitimate question. I don't.
Don't think
You hear her
that's
talking about
the
her mom
case,
a lot, but she never talks about her dad.
That is related to
I wasn't I wasn't being a dick.
No?
Assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value.
Oh, I think she just mentioned her father and we missed it.
She mentioned him in her acceptance speech at the DNC.
Protecting Social Security and Medicare.
Hey, her dad's name is Donald J. Harris, at least according to ChatGPT.
Her daddy's going to be Donald J. Trump. Donald J. Harris, huh?
Yeah.
Fucking metaverse strikes again.
Retired economics professor who taught at Stanford University.
He was the Marxist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Down and name calling.
I talked about him.
They divorced when Kamala was young.
Is the leader who actually understands the strength.
So it's kind of unfair that people link her to Marxist statements with her father's Marxist views when he may not have even been around.
Correct. Yeah, I would say that's fair.
I wish I was.
That's
My
kind of
father
fucked
was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars. Many, many billions.
What's a fraction of multiple billions?
Even surprised. So we don't have to
Say it
talk
again?
about that.
He said his father built up this great empire, but he was only given fractions because she's saying he inherited all this shit. What's fractions of multiple billions?
I'd like to find out.
I mean, 1% of 100 billion is still $1 billion. That's a fraction.
At least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota,
Yes, she was.
Wait a minute, I'm talking now. You know,
The adults are talking. Did you see when Schumer shushed her when she was back in the corner?
You told me about that.
Oh, dude, I gotta find a video of that for the next show.
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis. She went out and raised
The
money
George
to get
Floyd
them out
thing.
of jail. She did things that nobody would ever.
Yeah, she asked to raise money for those people.
Transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow.
Did you see the side by side of her talking about how she would never go after guns? Or I mean, it was from here. She's gonna say her and Tim Walz are avid gun owners. They're for gun rights, but then they showed her back when she was like, "We will pass the buyback thing 100%. We're gonna buy back all the guns."
A buyback's fine.
Yeah, but they were trying to make it sound like she was anti-gun. She's about to say, I think the clip I saw.
These guys go to where they were. I would have been
Probably in response to this.
5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up.
You think Kamala carries?
Because they had no choice, because the prices.
I feel like she does.
I bet she does.
She got like a little 380 in her
packing it.
purse. Yeah.
Gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead.
And not just because she's black.
We'll go back to windmills.
I want to clarify that.
Isn't she Indian?
Solar, where they need a whole desert to get some
She's both.
energy
Okay.
to come out of. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar. But they
Like a sunflower?
What are you talking about?
500 acres.
Aren't all plants solar?
Photosynthesis, bitch.
It's real. Look it up.
We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis.
Like
Mr.
they're
President, on
they're
January
fucking
6th, you told
catering these questions to her to hammer him.
Be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day. The officers coming under attack.
Several of these questions are very easy for her to just slam Trump. Because
Yes.
like what?
You
Like,
did send out
they're
tweets.
not
It was
doing the
more than
opposite.
2 hours before you sent out that video message.
They almost seem to be setting him up for these hard
Yeah.
questions and then coming back to her to let her bash him.
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever.
Have you seen the
shot her.
conspiracy stuff around
It's a
that? The
disgrace.
Ashley Babbitt thing?
But we didn't
No.
do this group of people that have been treated so badly.
Got to do a January 6th episode on January 6th.
To our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in.
You should do that.
Remember that. She
January 6th.
Is this good? Perfect time with
Yeah.
the
she's embarrassed by the border.
Kamala president transfer. It's Kamala.
Yeah, you think so?
Talking about the border yet.
If we're gonna go off this debate,
She knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
one of those, David, one of those people are going to be prosecuted. One of the people that burned down Minneapolis is going to be prosecuted. Or in Seattle, they went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. One of those people are going to be prosecuted.
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech.
I take a little responsibility.
I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their job.
Crazy Nancy Pelosi.
Responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible.
You should say her name one more time.
The question was
Nancy Pelosi.
Vice President, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January.
Let's be clear.
I was the vice president.
Let's understand.
I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the President of the United States incited a violent mob.
Oh, stop.
Our nation's capital. To desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured.
The only people that looked relatively violent were the Antifa plants.
Former president has
like everybody else was being led into offices. They've got the footage. They're walking around, taking pictures, sitting like nobody's.
There was one.
What about the dude that was having sex in the room? The gay sex dude. Like that's worse than what some of these other people just walking into these rooms.
You can't judge, Steve.
I can. I'm allowed.
You can't.
I'm still allowed.
Real quick on the January side, we probably should do an episode. But like you're talking about the guys.
4 more months.
There was one video in particular which was so weird that one guy rushed up to one of the buildings on the Capitol and there was already a 2x4 placed there, and he picked that up and started bashing a window out. Like, what is a 2x4 doing outside the window of the Capitol? Why is there a 2x4 there?
Yeah,
weird.
Why were there dudes in FBI or police vests and clothing going behind closed doors in the videos of them taking it off and shaking hands with cops and putting on other gear?
There's a lot of weirdness, and I won't absolve Donald Trump completely.
No.
Like I showed you.
I think he knows what he knew. He was. He said though he called for nonviolent protests. They're going to go down there and be peaceful, but they're going to go down there and not stand for that. However, I think he knew what he was doing.
We talked about this yesterday with 9/11, like on several incidents. Both things can be true.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Remember Charlottesville.
Fine people on both sides. I remember it well.
People carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate.
Oh, now we're going to go the anti-Semitic route.
The president then, at the time, say there were fine people on each side.
How are we still doing this?
She's still talking about the white supremacist group?
Yeah, Charlottesville.
Oh, God.
The president said, the former president said, stand back and stand
They're
by.
still running that, even though it's been debunked by multiple.
Remembers what January 6th was? I say we
and what it can be.
Back. Let's not go
unburdened by what has been.
I'm tired of this not go back thing. She says it so annoying.
It's too far for you. Well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point.
I understand.
Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath. If this and the outcome of this election.
What about all the shit they've shown of him about a target on him, about all the bullseye and all the shit leading up to his shooting?
Rhetoric only matters when he says it.
Okay.
Just so we're clear.
I just want to make sure
let's understand.
I just want to make sure we balance it out of the both sides.
Let's understand, Steve, what we're talking about.
It was a term that related to energy because they destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville. That story has been, as you would say, debunked.
Multiple times.
Ingram, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these
Fucking
people,
Snopes, for God's sake.
Nope.
if they go an extra sentence, they will see it was perfect. It was debunked in almost every newspaper, but they still bring it up, just like they bring 2025 up. They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be
Fair
very
point.
proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate, because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C.
Can't do that.
Sign a bill to close up the border, because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on.
That was awesome.
That the border is closed. All he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
we talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you, because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide.
They're gonna try and fire him up even more.
This is another question that's perfectly catered for her to slam him.
Yeah.
He has to
It's a
defend himself.
bash to him. And yeah.
Yeah.
You came up a little bit short.
I said that.
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
What the fuck is the point of this? What does this have to do with the debate?
It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is, and they should have sent it back
They're
to
baiting
the
him.
legislatures for.
Why is it the
what does that have to do with him battling her, talking about if he believes he lost the last election?
you mentioned you saw stuff that was 3-on-1 about like I see that.
We should never be thinking about an election as fraud.
This is at least the third question that was designed for her to slam him.
It's
And
basically like a shit talk to him. Do you agree with this shit talking to you? And then her to be able to.
He has to fucking defend himself, and she gets to slam him. They haven't done that for her.
Speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically.
They asked her a question about the border, but the way they phrased it wasn't like, hey, you were in charge of the border and all these immigrants have come in. What's your response to that?
Yeah.
Whisker, we didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them.
They haven't fact-checked her once.
Standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania.
Time you gotta leave.
We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what?
I might have to leave and take a phone call.
Because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president.
Our nation is dying. Thank you, Mr. President.
So he still believes he did not lose.
He's called Mr. President?
That was won by President.
I believe if you were a former president, you're still entitled
Just
to.
once an athlete, always an athlete.
This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences.
This is horrible. All these questions are set up.
Saying we won't let
this is terrible.
us. We won't
This is pretty fucked up. It has reached a fucked up level. This isn't unbiased.
Donald Trump was fired.
Steve, let's be clear and please understand.
I know you are not a fan of Donald Trump.
I
know
am
that.
not a fan of Donald Trump, and I think he's doing bad in this. But fuck, they are.
Cannot afford.
This is not
President of the United States.
fair and balanced reporting. This is terrible.
As he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters.
4 questions now, I've counted.
I'm gonna send him a message,
Donald,
on Twitter.
Okay.
Tell him we have a podcast. We just watched the debate and did a live thing with it, and that we think that it was very unfair.
Some of whom work with.
I'm gonna see if he responds.
And I got a plan for you, brother.
I'm gonna see if he
I can
responds.
fix this for you.
Yeah.
Talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny
What way?
what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election. It leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
They're fucking lobbing her up softballs, dude.
Totally.
Victor Orban, one of the most respected men. They call him a strong
Don't
man.
bring up
He's a
Victor
tough
Orban.
person.
I don't know who that is.
He's the authoritarian prime minister of Hungary.
3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back.
You can talk about his buddy Kim Jong-un next.
Afraid of him. China
Putin.
was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that.
Did this talk about the Nord Stream bombing?
No, he's talking about
to Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world.
Them building the pipeline, not the bombing of.
Said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had
the CIA, Ukraine
Well,
bombing of the Nord Stream. That one?
man that you saw at a debate just a few
Why
months
are we
ago.
talking about
that
Biden?
If you weren't in that debate,
Because he's the current president.
she got no votes.
I mean, you shouldn't be.
But I mean,
But at the same time,
we're not debating Biden.
I know, but
come on.
goddamn.
Focus. I hate when he brings up Biden. Focus.
And you know what?
Instead of saying Biden, say her. She's part of
Yeah.
the administration.
Yes.
Say her.
She's the vice president.
Just tie her to Biden without saying Biden.
Votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but
Mr.
I'm
President,
okay with it
Mr.
because
President, your time is
I
up.
think we're
Thank
going to
you.
do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now
Yes.
to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice
You can't
President
get over
Harris
metaverse.
quote, Israel
Metaverse Kamala, Metaverse Trump.
quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead, nearly 100 hostages.
More than that.
remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate.
On vacation.
And she's working tirelessly around the clock,
Let's
guaranteed.
understand how we got here.
Let's understand.
On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis, many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped.
And they've killed
so
like
absolutely,
80 times more after that.
They
Israel
parachuted in undetected in one of the most
and how it does
civilly guarded and secured countries in the world.
There's no way the Israeli Secret Service saw that coming.
Dude, hello. Parachutes floating for 30 minutes before they landed?
You literally couldn't see it coming
At all.
at all.
When and immediately
Those helicopters were silent.
is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock.
They
on
100%
that.
knew about it. It was a setup.
Work around the clock, also understanding that we must
They also had warnings from other countries.
a two-state solution. And in that
Sounds familiar.
solution, there must be security
Something
for the
happened
Israeli people.
long-
and
23 years
Couple
ago
decades
today?
ago.
Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it
Don't they already have that?
as it relates to
Thanks to
Iran
us.
and
You're
any
welcome.
threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have
That's a good
never,
question.
ever. I know Putin very well. He would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up. Far worse than people.
I feel like
what's going on.
when he answers a question, he talks about the what if it never happened and never gets to the question. If he would just answer the question and explain why and then work backwards to where he's the points he's making, I feel like he would do better.
Yeah, probably.
Start with answering the question and then detract and derail and go someplace else. But you never answer the question, so your opponent was like, "Hey, he never even answered the question. Like, what?"
2 years from now, and I've been
Yeah,
pretty good at
he just-
predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one.
Start. You can derail and deflect by starting down that path and then turning. But he never does that.
He digresses before he ever starts making.
Yes, exactly.
Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has 300
Third person solid.
because they took off all the sanctions that I had.
Poor move.
Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror, and they are spheres of terror.
Terror?
Horrible terror.
Spheres of terror.
Terror.
It was a big story.
Horrible
and you
terror.
covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now
Terror.
they're a rich nation.
Like
and
terra
now
firma, like the
what they're
earth.
doing
When did
is
he
they're
become an old
destroying
Jewish man? When did terror?
Terra.
Look at what's happening.
Talking about Israel, so there's going to be terror.
Look at what's
Oh,
going
the
on in
terror.
East. This would have never happened.
The whole time.
Fast
The
and
terror.
Hamas never would have gotten a foothold in Jerusalem if I was there.
before even
Oh, the
Oh,
terror.
where's Adam? What do you do?
He says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have
We love
my
all
entire career and life
immigrants.
supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to again divide and distract. It is very well known.
Like being in the movie theater trying to pop a
Donald Trump
fucking can open and nobody hears.
Security and foreign policy. It is well known.
We were in hazmat the other day, and somebody came in like 25 minutes late, and like, and then sat down, and like the desk was like, and then all of a sudden started unwrapping a burrito, and it was so fucking loud.
Are his initials MD?
And go to
Yeah, I fucking knew it. Love him.
Russia went into Ukraine. It was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. And it is absolutely well known that these
So you calling him gay?
and autocrats are rooting.
I would have said that. Love letters? Are you calling me gay? Are you a homophobe?
Clear
Oh,
That would be awesome in a debate.
with flattery and favors. And that is why
Like, I feel like their pettiness needs to be better petty. Like a petty, like an argument with your wife petty. Like they need to be that level petty and then get into some shit. But he's like, well, no. I'm the best because of this. No, be like, are you a homophobe? Are you saying I was a love letter? You don't like homos? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
start shitty petty and then go big.
yeah,
I feel like they're missing opportunities.
And she's
they
the
totally
one
are.
that caused it. That's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year.
Not a good face for her.
over 68 different countries sending people into our country.
We're gonna
Their
do like a side-
prices are
okay.
way down.
Oh, the
Putin
wrong way.
endorsed her last week. Said, "I hope she wins," and I think he meant it because what he's gotten away
Why is she?
with is
Why is she
absolutely
laughing about Putin endorsing her? He did.
The leaders of
He wants her to be in charge because we're fucking weak.
Yeah.
incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent.
I would
And I
very
just
much
said,
like Comrade
question,
Kamala.
Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline?
And now she's like,
going
fuck,
to
I wish I knew what he
Israel
was talking about. So I could
because they're
argue.
weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way, gets
President
paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this.
The facial, like,
ABC News presidential debate.
the facial thing's too much for me.
Man, that was a long, unbroken. That was like 30 minutes of
Right?
Oh, he looks like a.
Said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would
Hulu now streaming. on
We have to blur that out because we're not sponsored. Or,
in Philadelphia,
I mean, this is news, right? This is
Yeah.
newsworthy.
David
You
is
hear
this
me?
the fair use thing where we're reacting to
This
it,
is
so
fair
it's
use.
okay?
YouTube.
Yeah.
presidential debate
I mean,
tonight?
for sure.
Suck it.
Might not make it on
We'll
YouTube,
take it off.
Now 2.5
but it's
years
still going up on.
Yeah.
this
No one's
conflict.
gonna watch YouTube. Leave it. No one's gonna watch it.
Seriously.
Yeah, we got 8 followers.
Defend Ukraine from Russia, from Vladimir Putin, to defend their sovereignty, their democracy, that it's in America's best interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 24 hours. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Ask you a
Fair
very
question.
simple question tonight.
You
Do you
can't.
want Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop.
Yeah,
I want
thank
to
you.
save lives that are being
We don't want there to be a
useless.
winner.
Good start. Good start. Yeah.
By the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look,
fake news.
We're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are.
Good point.
They're in for 150.
Yeah, it's going to affect them first before us. Why are they not paying?
You don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO.
You don't have the balls.
Hundreds of billions of dollars when I said either you
It's a good
pay
point.
we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons I don't like.
I do remember him doing that when he was president.
he was talking about
stepped it up. Yeah.
Yeah. Pay your fair share.
Yeah. Or you're on your own.
Yeah. Fair is fair.
They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said,
what are you rolling your eyes at, bitch?
And why is she looking at him like he's cute? You're cute.
A good relationship, and they respect your president. Okay,
Do you think she has an earpiece in?
They don't respect Biden. How would you?
Are they allowed?
Why?
They're
For
not
what
allowed.
reason?
But her hair is over that one ear that you can't see.
Maybe her ear got shot.
Spoken to anybody, they don't even try and get it. That is
Plot
a war
twist.
that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do.
That's illegal, Donald. You can't do that.
What?
To the other,
Negotiate on behalf of the United States with foreign countries.
In fact, when I saw Putin,
She's not smart enough to know that.
unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him, soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even.
I've been asking that question for a couple episodes.
Campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president?
He threw him out of the campaign like a dog.
Doesn't know he's alive.
Your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
There's no winners in war, David.
We have to.
You would know that if you fucking stepped out of your office once in a while. There's no winners in war. Unless you're America.
Support for Ukraine.
I'm fair. That's a fair point you brought up. Best answer so far.
How would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me. I believe the reason that Donald
That was a pretty strong move by her.
This war would be over within.
Surprised it took her that long to say it. He's mentioned Biden a few times.
And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually
Let's be clear then.
met with Zelensky.
Let's understand.
A few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the
Zelensky's an actor, though.
Territorial integrity.
So is Reagan.
That's what I'm saying. Like, they were put in place to. I mean, from an actor to they're appointed to that part. Like,
days later, I went to.
How do you believe anything they say?
To Poland and Romania.
Yeah. Well.
And through
there's so much going on over there. Trying to make it seem like it's cut and dry, like we have no influence.
It's not at
on
all.
what's happening.
Yeah.
No.
Ukraine in its righteous defense, and because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tank.
There's a big case to be made. Without our support, they wouldn't be in war
independent and free.
At all.
Yeah.
Would be sitting in Kyiv right now, and understand what that would mean.
Well, then let's be clear. If we're going to understand,
yeah.
Just about Ukraine. Understand.
She keeps saying that. I still don't understand.
In our NATO
what she's trying to say.
Understand.
You are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known.
She likes that word.
NATO,
Military alliance or understand.
To preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest.
It has nothing to do with them fighting for their independence. It has everything to do with the NATO agreement of incorporating Ukraine.
He's been saying it for a long time.
For the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with.
I mean, that was from Putin himself. That's not from these two debating. It's Putin saying the reason we did this is because
from both of you
of that.
Tonight, Afghanistan came up in the last hour.
Since the 90s, he's been saying that.
You said earlier, and now, please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting.
The adults are talking.
Much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that.
Yeah.
And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have.
Her fault.
She's worse than Biden.
Weak, stupid.
Damn it, Kamala.
In the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible.
She's least favorable.
They sent her in to negotiate.
This is true.
As soon as they left to Putin.
It's hilarious.
Everybody forgets that.
Everyone talked about, oh, Biden, he's too old. What if he dies? The insurance policy for Biden not dying is Kamala Harris would be president.
And
she's the insurance policy. Yeah.
Lowest approval
She was a
rating.
fucking joke up until 2 months ago.
And that is another one.
And now everybody's behind her. She's the answer. Lowest approval rating of a VP. She's the answer that we got to get behind.
She's just the
Fuck.
the most fucking AstroTurf candidate I've ever seen.
AstroTurf.
Yeah, like
international rules and norms. As a leader who shows strength.
How much do you think she's learned in the last 2 months?
We have around the world.
You know what I mean? Like she probably knew nothing in the last 2 months. Is like drinking from a fire hose. Like all this information, and she's just overwhelmed.
She's just been sitting back crushing boxes of wine up until she's like, "Hey, Kamala, you're in what?"
She's got her fucking bag of wine sitting behind that podium.
Pooch.
The president of the United States,
Franzia bag.
in chief, and the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility.
Are we live streaming this, or is this just going straight to?
It's not live stream.
We have a live stream.
No, I couldn't figure it out.
Principles and not sell them for the.
I mean, I figured it out, but it would not record for whatever reason. It just wouldn't go live.
I feel like something like this would be hard to live stream because we'd be trying to respond to people making comments and shit. We'd miss 90% of it.
Said Trump did the most amazing thing.
That's what happened before.
He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you. Otherwise, we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal?
Good question. Finally, a question where I could actually slam her.
I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan.
The decision was fine. It was the execution.
And Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world. The first time this century.
I guess you're not calling Iraq a combat zone.
We got where we are.
Potential combat zone. But active combat currently today?
Yeah.
Deals you can imagine.
We have troops still since 03.
Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation
maybe negotiating with the Taliban, who ultimately took control before we even withdrew, was the right move.
Let me ask you
the Afghan
this.
Government was trash.
Thousands of miles away, if not tens, you negotiate with somebody to pull our troops out and figure something. Is negotiation not the aim for all of this, to come to an agreement on why we're not going to be at war anymore? Why would you bash somebody negotiating with anybody? Like, why has the thought come like, okay, we're going to go negotiate with Kim Jong-un? Kim Jong-il, Putin. Why is that looked at as a weakness? You know what I mean? Like, so I have this theory. I have this theory between confrontation and conflict. Okay, and I talked about this in my captain's interview, right? And from coaching, from teaching, from a standpoint, I have this concept of this philosophy of I am all for confrontation. There's a lot of people that are not. A lot of people view confrontation and conflict as the same thing. My philosophy is that confrontation is necessary in the beginning, and oftentimes that can eliminate the conflict or avoid the conflict.
Yeah, confrontation doesn't mean conflict.
No, it's uncomfortable, but it doesn't mean that conflict is going to pursue after. Why is the confrontation part of this being looked at as like the bad thing, the weak thing? Oh, how dare you negotiate with ISIS? They were cutting the fucking heads off people and live streaming it and sending it out to the world. Like, why would we not want to negotiate with people and end that so that our people aren't involved in that?
We don't negotiate with terrorists.
Well, I agree with that. I agree with that. And I've used that line on my kids multiple times because my kids have acted like terrorists. However, like, fuck, man.
Yeah. No,
we don't need to be involved in this shit all the time. Like, let's find a way to get our troops out of there.
This issue bothers me a lot.
God, it drives me crazy. And I wasn't even in the military. You're in the military. Like, you have insight on that more than I do.
Well, not even that. I just think
drives me crazy.
As an American, like, we don't need to continually send all of our friends, our children, our brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers. We don't need to send them over there to die in a absolutely
needless. Yeah.
So I will agree with her in the sense that, yeah, I agree with Biden's decision to pull out. Obama tried to pull out, convinced otherwise. Trump tried to pull out, was flat out ignored by all his team there. They even brag about it in their books, how they ignored what he wanted. It's fucking insane. But yeah, so I agree with we needed to get them out. But negotiating with the Taliban, she's complaining about that. They were the people who were going to rule. It was never the Afghan government. It was going to be the Taliban, which is the case before we even got done pulling out.
Us, right? Didn't we prop them up?
We didn't necessarily.
Back in...
we didn't prop them up necessarily.
Early 90s?
We just... So again, we talked about this yesterday.
Yeah, that's what it was.
So we backed the Mujahideen fighters against the Soviets, and the Taliban grew out
from
of
those fighters
in the early 90s, and we kind of had a indifferent view to them. We just hands off.
Yeah, because they were going to do their own thing. They were their own. Yeah,
yeah. We didn't care. It didn't affect America.
I think one of the biggest things that it just while we're on pause in relation to all of this, talking about the foreign policy and the international policy, is the fact that Russia has the nukes.
That's a big problem.
That's a fucking big deal.
We can't treat them like they are the Taliban.
No.
Yeah.
There needs to be a level of negotiation and a level of cordial discord between the two of us, whether we agree or not, whether we have to have that confrontation prior to conflict, because they are a nuclear power. And that's something that we've been worried about since the mid 70s, late 70s, early 80s. Like, that's been a big fucking deal. Like, you can't overlook that.
They try to paint Putin with this duality that he's a madman. We don't know what he's going to do, and therefore we have to stop him. Okay, is he a madman? Do we have to stop him? Okay. And then they try to say, when he talks about nuclear war, like, well, he wouldn't do that. He's bluffing. Which is it?
Yeah.
Is he a madman?
Yeah.
Or is he bluffing?
Absolutely.
Which is it? Like, obviously you're not taking him seriously, so you therefore don't believe that he's a madman who's set on regional domination. I mean, I don't think both of those things can be true, especially when you're dealing with somebody who could push a button and we can end the world tomorrow.
I think it depends on the question asked and the argument that they, the position that they want to take on a specific argument. And I think that once people realize that they are painting that picture two different ways, like that's the separator. Which is it? Like, I mean, so Donald Trump appears at this point to be almost not losing this debate, but floundering.
I would say
floundering in comparison to Kamala. However, I would say 75% of everything he's saying is very poignant. It's very one directional. Here's my stance. Here's where I'm at. Even when he's trying to defend himself, granted, there's the politician questions. The other 25% I'll say is like, I'm not going to give a direct answer because one answer will offend one people, one answer will offend somebody else. So we're going to go right down the middle. But I think 75% of what he's saying is like, this is why we're doing this. You have to understand this. Kamala, all she's saying is you have to understand. And 75% of her shit, like there's no answer to.
Yeah. She just kind of deflects back to bagging on him, which I mean,
It's working.
It's working. Yeah.
So far, from what we've seen, we're probably halfway through. It's working.
We better be more than halfway through.
No.
I know that, like I said, from about here long. Oh, shit.
So,
wait. Oh, no. Oh, no.
So 213.
This is all.
Let's see where we're at. Sorry, so we're 140 roughly. No, not even there.
I think
135
we're
roughly?
close to the end.
Where were we? Nope.
Let me see. Let's go.
Deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different?
Terrible deal. And here's how it went down.
Oh, so we got about 30 minutes left.
The Afghan government
we're about here.
Negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban.
I don't disagree with that.
Involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this. No,
They traded the fucking Lord of War.
The president at the time.
They gave everything to the Taliban. They gave the whole country back to the Taliban. They gave them all our weapons, killed 13 Marines.
Their administration gave back that Russian fucking Lord of War, the arms smuggler.
Yeah. What was he? The Merchant of Death?
Merchant of Death. That's what it was. Not Lord of War. Merchant of Death.
Yeah.
And this
for a reporter.
Former president, president.
No life is unequivalent, not equivalent to another, but goddamn.
Yeah.
In the chess match of government, that trade was equal to that trade?
That was fine.
Fuck.
You can deal with those governments when it's okay, apparently.
And this gets back to the point of
this is why I hate politics. Like,
but we got Brittany Griner back, so that's good. For the
did get Brittany Griner back.
That was in that Merchant of Death fucking trade. Yeah.
The strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved.
But what did that mean?
Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban.
Abdul.
And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do.
I'll kill your family. Here's a picture of their house.
Why did you send me a picture of my house? I said,
fuck yeah.
Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement.
Such a G move. You watch that interview clip. Yeah. Fuck, dude.
We would have been faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of
equipment.
New beautiful military equipment.
Beautiful equipment.
And just to finish,
why does he add this? Beautiful equipment.
The agreement said you have to do this.
Most beautiful equipment I've ever seen.
And they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
See, this is such a good point, and he does a terrible job at articulating it.
Withdrawal. And in my opinion, the most embarrassing.
This question was actually set up.
We got to get the Donald on our show and be like, dude, just listen to us.
Redo. Yeah, let's redo this question. Let's go.
And her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move
fire your advisors. Just get me and Johnny. Dude,
boss move.
You'll be ready to go.
Until a number of years ago, when she happened to turn.
Here's another question teed up for her.
He's fucking
ask a bigger picture question here tonight.
This is not a fucking presidential debate question. This has nothing to do with the country.
Oh, you mentioned that you thought she was black.
I don't care what she is. I don't.
Yeah.
You make a big deal.
She's a mutt. So what?
Whatever she wants to.
Yeah, we all are. So what?
Yeah.
But those were your words. So
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and
she put out,
and then I read that she was black.
We heard that.
That's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her.
She's a weak candidate. That's the point.
Harris, your thoughts on this?
Honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who.
He could have at least said, my point in saying that was that she decides what race she's going to be to pander whatever the crowd she's in front of.
Yes.
That's it.
She wants to earn the votes of whoever she's in front of at that time.
Yeah.
And she's a chameleon. She will change to try and pretend that she is somebody different to get the votes.
If she's in front of a liberal crowd, she's pro-immigration. If she's in front of a more moderate crowd, she's a border hawk. That's how it works.
If she's in Detroit, she speaks like she's
from Alabama.
If she's in Philly, she's a Yale graduate.
You better ask
damn.
You better thank you, union worker.
Come on, man. That's what I'm saying is.
Yeah, you're pandering.
You got 2 minutes on that question. question, and you spent 12 seconds going,
Took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of 5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first Black president of the United States.
Yeah, this is totally keyed up for her to bring up some shit.
And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this.
Talking about the birther thing with Obama?
Understands as I do, I travel our country.
Did he ever produce a birth certificate?
A friend.
Yeah, Republicans don't like it.
A neighbor.
Well, I never.
Yeah, they don't.
Was it from Hawaii?
Trying to
Right?
Yeah.
Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations.
This is teed up for her, and she's prepared for this. That's fucked.
In hate and division.
Vice President.
She's not this good of a speaker with no teleprompter that everybody should fucking know this.
No. That was teed up for her.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said.
He's saying the same shit without making the good points.
Yeah.
Including Mayor Bloomberg agreed with me on the Central Park.
This is why everybody agrees with you. Talk about what she's done wrong, dude.
This is what I say when I say he's not a good debater. Everyone's like, oh, he's so good. He's not.
He's not.
He's terrible.
And ultimately, and if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But
The breathing, the breathing through your teeth, like that's
50 years ago,
Shane Gill is still such a good fucking impression of him.
I built one of the greatest institutions in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again.
we had Shane on the show too.
Yeah, call him up.
But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this, she is Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman.
That's the fucking best thing you can say. Now build on that.
The worst inflation we've ever had. A horrible.
Should have been your entire debate strategy. She is Biden.
Get away with that.
Thank you. Time's up.
Briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country.
No, you don't.
One who believes.
You've been in the White House for 3.5 years.
One who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do.
She wants to be Obama so bad.
Strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have.
How does she do such a good job of pretending that she hasn't been in the White House for 3.5 years?
She's a politician.
Fuck. Why are we not pointing that out more? Every single question go, just so you guys know, she's been in office for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
So let me answer that question because she could have solved this and hasn't.
Pull a page out of her book. Just so we understand.
Yeah,
Let's be clear.
Just be clear. Fuck me, man. Trump, call us, man.
Dummy.
At the real Donald Trump. We're going to fucking send this to you. Call us.
Allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment
for illegal immigrants.
Where's the money coming from?
Yeah.
That's the kind of conversation.
Say that. Come on. Where's the money? All this money you want to give everybody, all these tax breaks. Where does the money come from?
Sure.
Start with that. Where does the money come from?
Belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page.
Vice President
move
Harris.
forward.
Thank
You
you.
want to stop the name calling? Shut up, bitch.
President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
To defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate.
She says it's not true, but she said it multiple times.
Yeah, she might not have a plan, but she's mentioned it.
Yeah. Okay. To her credit, she does
Let's be fair. Let's be fair. Yeah, there's nothing, no policy.
I'm sorry. We're gonna move on, Vice President Harris. President Trump.
That's the first time they've cut her off.
Yeah.
President, you have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running,
he hasn't been in office though.
Can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with
just because it was taxpayer subsidized, right? That was the whole thing behind that.
I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it.
Yeah, you inherited that.
Done that, we would have had a much better plan.
But if you had a plan to start, you should have been able to fix it as you went.
Vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be? Never going to be great. Or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people.
The best people.
Stop. You're killing it what you're saying.
The bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they.
No, everybody just fucking lost track of what you were saying.
Let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive.
Again, you're the champion. You saved it, but you didn't save it because it's still garbage. It's not a win.
Okay. Just pause there real quick.
That's not that comment's not a win though.
No, like he totally.
You're trying to make yourself out to be the hero.
I feel like he's on the right track. Like, hey, I wanted to get rid of Obama.
Yes, he starts down the right track.
We couldn't just get rid of it. That would have been bad for a lot of people who did have healthcare. It did give people healthcare. It was not perfect. It was something to build on. We tried to do this. We tried to do that. It was blocked in Congress. So we have what we have. However, I would still like to continue to try to do X, Y, Z. There it is.
Mic drop.
Yeah, I know with Obamacare, I can't remember everything, but there was problems with like premiums going up.
Well, remember
you couldn't choose doctors.
The website was an issue for a year.
Yeah,
healthcare.com and people trying to sign up. And I know this because my younger brother, one of my younger brothers at the time, was
when I first rolled out was
unemployed. And he was trying to go through the whole deal because there was a law that you had to have healthcare by a certain fucking date.
Yeah.
And so he was scrambling, trying to do the governmental thing. I think he was fresh out of college. I don't think he had a job yet. He was looking for a job. He had a wife. They got married. So he was trying to do the legal right thing. And he was like, dude, this website's a fucking nightmare. I can't figure it out. So like that was a big issue for at least the first year of the whole entire program.
Yeah. And I mean, Obamacare, say whatever you want about it. Like, during the rollout or even like putting it in place, nothing's going to be perfect.
It's a nationwide deal. It's a process.
You're going to have to figure things out and hopefully make it better as you go, which is what I think Trump should have said is like, yeah, I wanted to repeal it. I wanted to do something better. Turned out the best thing to do was leave it in place and try to build upon it to make it better.
Yeah.
Boom.
By the time I inherited it, it was too far into the system to say, let's cancel it because it would have screwed a bunch of people.
Yeah. So no, I don't want to cancel it. I want to make it better. Let's be clear.
So can we build on
Let's be clear. Please understand.
Yeah, it wasn't my idea. I inherited a shit show. I tried to make it better.
Answer's done.
Population, less money, and be better healthcare than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes, you still do not have a plan.
I have concepts of a plan.
I'm
president right now. But if
I have concepts in my head of a cool barndominium that I want to build when I retire, but I haven't drawn it out.
Or about the land.
Or about the land.
I have concepts.
Yeah. I got concepts of a bunker I want to build for World War III, but
wow.
That's
rough.
God damn it.
Proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system.
Could have called her out on Medicare for All, which was insanely unpopular.
What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, let's just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being You don't like him, you said at the time, because he.
This was teed up for her because there's not a chance she remembers this.
Yeah.
she prepped for this one.
Forget that night. Walked onto the.
This is a Hillary answer.
100%.
You don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to.
This goes right back into her previous thing where she was saying, she's like, make no mistake, he has no plan for you.
Yeah.
And then he said it. I have concepts.
I have concepts. Oh, man.
She's doing a pretty good job of setting him up.
Was a breast cancer survivor.
He was walking right into it all.
Had diabetes. And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the
diabetic medication.
We have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year.
And when his face ain't good.
We will do that for all people.
He needs to smile more. Yeah. But he also needs to not be afraid to look at her when he's talking, because right now he only faces forward and she'll look at him when she's right and he won't look at her.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a sign of weakness. If you want to show dominance, like look at her and fucking stare her down.
Yeah. He like talks to the moderators.
Yeah. And then when she talks, he's like this.
Where Donald Trump stands on.
Which I mean, I get they're the ones asking the question.
I get it too.
No,
like you need to be able to look at her and be like, hey man.
John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money.
But you don't have a plan. You have a concept. You can't.
Private insurance for people.
You can't talk about it if you're not going to. You can't come with problems, dude.
She doesn't want to give
come with a plan.
Oh, I thought there was only a little bit left, so I was going to take the rest of it. But that's a full glass.
Everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean
fucking stop.
Vice President Harris, you call climate change.
This is important to younger voters, is climate change?
The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight?
You can hammer on some issues here.
President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Green New Deal.
Well,
start there.
The former president had said the climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being.
What do you mean 120 degrees in Phoenix every day is normal?
Who has been the victim of what
hotter summer than last summer.
Every year.
Last summer was the hottest summer in history.
No.
Every summer from now on projected to be hotter than the summer before. Perfect.
Just for context, if you're listening out of state, it's September 11th. It's 108 today.
Yeah. This is like the 110th day?
Somewhere around there. Yeah.
Above 110?
I think more than that.
Above 110?
I think more than that.
Yeah.
But 110 over 100 is like 120 something days. So
maybe it's 105. Maybe that's something.
While I have
it sucks.
It's pretty awesome.
We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs.
COVID.
And I'm also proud to have the endorsement
created by Obama and Fauci.
Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes
talk about Ford's cut their EV program because it's not working.
Auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
COVID.
Harris, thank you.
It didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving.
AI.
They're building big auto plants in Mexico. In many cases owned
that's
by
a real thing, robotics and AI. Like you can't say
they think they're gonna
jobs are lost, but they're not leaving the states.
What they have given to China.
You know what I mean? Like what's the projection on that? Like, yes, that's American jobs.
We do need to fight on keeping those jobs.
Unions have to fucking start fighting for that. That's got to be a thing.
Yeah, because a lot of union jobs are going to go away.
Absolutely.
And manufacturing in this country,
steel workers, electricians, like
auto workers,
Yeah. How long until it's firefighters,
cops? They just started with the
robots.
They started with the drone program. We've talked about it before. Like they're pre-crime. They're like going out and fucking spotting the crime. Like that takes away one cop's
drones
right there.
Ukraine dropping fucking
grenades.
Grenades.
That's fucking crazy.
Ukraine, China. Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million?
Because that Bugatti's fucking expensive, dog.
True that.
And they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. Closing statements.
Thank you.
Closing statements.
All right, here we go. Closing statements. Okay, hold on. Pause it.
Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Pause.
Where are you at right now?
He's getting murdered, dude.
Dude. What the fuck?
He's getting worked. Not looking good for the Trumpster.
You're not a fan of Trump or Kamala.
Correct.
And your position since politics have begun since this cycle has been lesser of two evils. You were going to vote for RFK Jr. He joined Trump.
Yeah.
Tulsi Gabbard joined Trump. They're kind of running that wave.
Mhm.
You decided that's kind of going to be same as me.
Yeah.
That's kind of going to be where we gravitate towards from a political standpoint, only because everything that we've seen in the last 3.5 years is garbage.
Yeah.
We don't want a continuation of that. Policy conflictions between the two of where we agree, where we stand politically, where we live, where we work. Fuck, dude.
He's getting worked. My whole thing, they could have never had this debate, or they could have had this debate go just as bad as it is for Trump. I think the people that are voting for Trump are still voting for him. This doesn't change anybody's mind. And
do you
vice
think
versa.
this changes the RFKers, the people who would have given Trump the vote for the RFK or the independent or the libertarian votes?
So I was one of those people.
Yeah.
And I can only speak to myself, I guess, but I really,
but here's the thing is you're an intelligent person. You can recognize this as a bad debate. You're not a never Trumper, and you're not
I don't have the
Democrat
TDS.
nothing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're kind of in that in between where you're trying to weigh both sides. There's gonna be people who are straight. It's gonna be conservative Republican. People who are straight, it's gonna be Democrat. But for the people floating in the middle, do you think that they are? I don't know the right word to pick. I'm gonna pick aware enough to weigh this and understand that he failed where he could have succeeded and that she is full of bullshit and be able to measure that.
No, I think most people, if they get their news at all, they get it from CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. That's where they get their news, period. End of story. If they get their news at all, which I don't think even most people watch the news. I would consider my wife a average person who watches the morning news and also hears whatever her husband tells her.
Morning news on like one of the main,
she watches,
main stations.
Watches Fox News in the morning. There's nothing super political going on there. We just report the news. That's it. I think those people, if they were considering voting and they were in the middle and this was their first exposure to either candidate, they would not vote Trump.
You think so? You think it would be enough? Do you think this would be enough to sway them?
Yeah, I do. If it's their first exposure, which most likely it's not.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say.
You probably have that preconceived notion of who either one is before you ever watch this.
Sure. And so I guess that would be my question is if this was their first exposure, but most people who would say they're libertarian, moderate, down the middle, independent, I think they both already have an idea. And so my question would be does this sway voters from Trump, even though it's a shitty debate?
Away from Trump?
My guess would be no, because they understand the bigger picture.
Yeah, if I had to guess, I would say no. Yeah. I think if you're pro-Trump in whatever capacity, if you actually like him in his policies.
Well, even if you don't like him or Kamala and you like RFK,
or if you're just like, and this is where I'm at right now, which is why I would vote for Trump, is I really dislike what the Democratic Party has done in the last several years. I really dislike it on a very deep level and what it means for this country. So that's why I'm voting. I'm not so much voting for Trump as I am against the Democratic Party.
Sure.
I don't think I will ever see a president and be like 100%
until 8 years from now.
No, I don't know if I could ever look at one and say like, you fucking nailed it. You speak to everything.
But I'm saying Democratic wise, like 4 8 years from now, the Democratic Party, there's always that swing. There's always that ebb and flow every 4 to 8, some max 12. But Adam pulled up that stat that we were talking about, and it's every 4 to 8 years, it's always back and forth, Republican, Democrat,
Sure.
Republican, Democrat. And so I guess my next question would be to you, to the conspiracy side of things, to the same two wings of the same bird, that there's and we've talked about this with the corporations, military industrial complex, who really runs America, who really runs our country as far as decision making goes on what actually happens. Is, do you think that any of this ultimately actually matters? And here's a question Adam asked me. 30 years from now, our kids are in their 20s, going on 30s. Where do you think our country is? Adam asked me that. And this is what I said. I think it's the exact same as it is right now.
That's
constant further split, constant turmoil, back and forth. I think our nation continually for the last 20 years has become more and more divided. If you're going to be conservative or Republican, you're extreme right, or you're not conservative or Republican. If you're going to be liberal or Democrat, you're far left, or you're not a liberal or a Democrat. I think that wedge grows bigger. I think it opens up the opportunity for a third party, which you have said multiple times. You would have a third party.
You need options.
I think that gives balance. I think that if you look at the way our government is right now, it's set up on all the different levels to have an odd number so that the majority leans one way, right? A third party would make more sense.
Yeah, totally.
But I don't think it's any different. I don't think we hit Civil War, World War III, maybe. I just don't. I think it's the same shit to keep us in the same position, and the people in power stay in power, and the machine
when you say the same, I see it. The machinery is going to keep moving, but what direction is it going to push us more in? Because you look at something like, and we just talked about this yesterday, 9/11, it completely changed the way our country operates forever. So many things happened for the worse after 9/11.
Yeah.
Like literally things changed forever.
So were sold in the name of good.
Yeah. And you can have another event like that. So do our kids see an event like that? And in what direction does that push them? Do they learn from our mistakes? Probably not.
Do you think that the next big event like the 9/11, because let's be honest, like there's been enough of those events in our lifetime,
COVID's very
that
similar.
we can say that we've lived through more than one. And historically speaking, because of where we're at, we can look back and look at things and say, oh, well, that was that generation's COVID. That was that generation's 9/11. Like we can go back and historically and say, this is kind of along those same lines. For our kids' generation, for the future generations, do you think it's more electronic and cyber than it is actually like individual civilian manpower?
We've talked about this a million times, just even looking at the future of warfare. It's going to be a technological war where thankfully you probably won't lose as many people, but then you get into a weird state of warfare. What is warfare? And maybe
does it knock out your economy, and what does that do to you?
Yeah, exactly. All of a sudden, yeah, it's going to be it's going to be very different. I do worry about I don't know, man. I'm kind of with you. It probably won't be much different.
I don't think it will.
I think it'll be several degrees left or right of center to where it is now.
So, and the only reason I say that is we used to work with a guy I'm not a big fan of, but he had a lot of comments on the financial side that he was like, all these people say politically it's ruining our economy, this, that, the dollar's devalued, we're printing money. He goes, when's the last time? And again, there are Americans that fall in this category, right? But not everybody. When's the last time you pulled up to the pump and went, oh, is it gas or eggs this week?
I've never said either or, but I've pulled up to the gas pump in the last 4 years and been like, oh,
sure.
Damn.
But have you ever not been able to buy gas?
No.
Have you ever not been able to buy groceries?
I have a very stable job.
Sure. But I'm just saying, like, we have this scope, this vision that gives us a different view than a lot of other people. I mean, so
I know people.
My wife and I right now, I pulled up to buy groceries and used the wrong card, and it was declined because we hadn't paid that bill that month.
Okay.
And I've had to switch cards. So I've been in that situation. But like, I've never gone, shit, do I get the kids to school this week or do I buy groceries? Like, I've never experienced that. And so I feel personally like 20 years from now, it's going to be the same thing. Wages will go up, prices will go up. You know, it's going to be this constant fluctuation. It's this shell game of back and forth. And you're going to have people that can't make ends meet. You're going to have people that can. You're going to have people that are profiting off of everybody. Like, I think the scope is the same thing. The scale just varies.
I've known a lot of people. I shouldn't say a lot of people. I've known several people since COVID, though, that did lose their business, lost their job, and had to make those decisions.
Absolutely.
It wasn't me. It wasn't us because.
But it's a different subset of culture. It's not every American person.
No, but I think it's a lot more than you and I know because.
Absolutely.
Like,
I would agree.
Yeah, we have.
I would agree with that.
Just the circle we run in is stable,
right?
Like for better or worse. So we will see.
I think it's interesting. I'm interested to see the closing comments. I was just curious your thought because Adam asked me that comment moving forward, and I was like, realistically, I think the extremes get more extreme. I think the differences get bigger. I think it's the same old bullshit on a different day. Like 20 years from now, it's the same fucking thing.
Probably. Let's see what President Harris does in the next 4 years.
Oh, stop it. Stop. Dude. Candidate Harris.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Wish I could.
I wish I could. You wish you could.
Will continue after this.
But I'll be honest, like, so if you hit pause real quick.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this is like the people who are on the conspiracy side of things, or even like the ultra right-wing conservatives will tell you that the Trump that we're seeing now is not the Trump that we saw 8 years ago.
It's not.
And that there are people who are very extreme into conspiracy who will tell you that this Trump is part of the machine. He's been compromised.
I don't think that needs to be conspiracy.
No. But I'm just saying those folks will say he's been compromised.
Yeah.
They will tell you Joe Rogan's been compromised. They will tell you that Elon's part of the machine. Like, so all these people that are championing this side, it's still this one wing of the same bird.
When you talk about somebody like Joe Rogan, I don't think he's been compromised. Like he's an asset.
He's an asset.
People are insane about that. Like, no,
I think that terminology goes big in some circles, and people want to throw that terminology around.
People,
like it means something.
People can change. And when you talk about Joe Rogan, I've listened to him long enough to see that certain things about his views have changed. And that's not a bad thing. I mean, he runs in different circles of people somewhat. He lives in a different area. That is going to change you. And he's seen some things he doesn't like from a certain, subset of politicians or of the public. As far as Elon Musk goes, when you say he's part of the machine, like he is a bit of part of the machine.
You can't be a billionaire and not be part of the machine that doesn't buck certain systems. Because I would say, and I've had this conversation with you and with Adam, you don't become a billionaire in our country with free reign on creating your own space system,
right?
Without the approval, of the higher ups.
Yeah.
You are a part of that system and you're playing that game, whether you want to pretend you are or not. It doesn't really matter. We're good at mankind, fucking whatever. Like, we still have air defense systems. We still have our governmental contractors. We still have our military contractors. Nobody's giving you free reign on flight in space just because you got money.
He deals with rockets, which in and of itself is a national security issue, and he has to have government approval to do that.
So you're jumping through hoops and playing games, and you can buy Twitter and you can say whatever you want at face value to the public.
Yeah.
But what you do behind closed doors and who you rub elbows with is different than what the general public sees. And it has to. People have to fucking know that.
I think maybe you could become a billionaire, maybe like I made $1 billion, but you are not going to become one of these mega billionaires.
Richest man in
your company,
the U.S. or the world, or however you want to gauge
has to get government contracts, government approvals. You're dealing with regulations. You're going to have to deal with certain lobbies to make your company that successful.
Yes.
Period. End of story. I don't care what you say. So is he a part of the machine? Yeah, to a certain aspect.
But he has to be.
He has to be. Yeah. But he also, I think, wants to buck back against certain things, and he does where he can.
So the conspiracy side is now saying that is a show. Just so you know,
it doesn't have to be.
Just
none
to
of the
give
other
context.
None of the other billionaires are putting on a show.
Right. But just to give context that what he's doing is trying to earn public trust because he's a shill.
None of the other guys do.
I know.
What's the point?
I'm just filling you in.
I like when people say that and then provide absolutely zero proof. Number one, you just say it's super cool to be a conspiracy theorist or just a dickhead because you can say whatever you want.
So I think it stems back to, do you remember the Tesla in space and the astronaut sitting in the car? Have you looked at it since that was launched in 2000, 2001?
No.
Whenever it was?
No.
Dude, it's a fucking CGI screensaver.
Maybe.
Like, it's an old Apple like screensaver. It's horrible. It's not real.
Yeah.
So if he's been to space and he's put a Tesla in space, why did he have that as being the thing? When you watch it now, you're like, this is fake as fuck. Because of how far technology is now in advance, and we know what's real and what's fake, or at least we can tell what's fake. We don't know what's real anymore, but we can look at something and go, that is bad.
I'd have to look at it.
Yeah, I'll show you. We'll bring it up.
But again, like, it doesn't, saying that he's putting on a show, like, other billionaires don't have to.
Yeah.
They're just billionaires and they're fine being
So some of the comments are like, how does he have so much time to invest in all his comments if he's actually doing all the stuff he's saying he's doing?
He does own
Amen.
He does own an AI company.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, you can
maybe he's got a more advanced version of Neuralink. He's just thinking it and sending out tweets.
Maybe.
Nobody
like,
knows.
as far as like AI, he does have his own AI company.
Yes.
And we've talked about this a million times. What comes out of that is what goes into it.
Yes.
You can pre-program that with all your own viewpoints.
Absolutely.
And it will generate that shit for you.
I mean, look at the one we saw last show where the guy looked like he was a young Elon at 18 with long hair, mannerisms, speech patterns, all of it.
Chatbots are,
and that's what's released to the public.
There are plenty of like funny little videos of people arguing with chatbots because they're that.
I just argued with ChatGPT with a parent from our flag football team.
Yeah.
He was posting comments from ChatGPT and I argued against it. And he would post a comment from ChatGPT and I would argue against it.
Yeah.
And he continually, I was having this conversation apparently against, which for the record, like Donald Trump, I just want to throw in that I won. All right. I won against ChatGPT. Yeah. I'm 1-0 against ChatGPT, but you know,
that's why
I'm doing left and right now.
I think that's exactly what he does. Because again, he doesn't have that much time. Pennsylvania. He's running massive.
Here we go. Sorry. I know I derailed. I just wanted to get into that.
Welcome back tonight. The time has come for closing statements, and Vice President Harris.
Metaverse Trump.
So I think you've heard tonight two very different visions for our country.
Understand.
One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward.
We're not going back.
But we're not going back.
Yeah, nailed it. Drink up.
That the American people know we all have so much more in common.
We should have done that drinking game. We would have fucking trash.
We can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the
So what's her plan? The same thing as the last 3.5 years?
Hopes, the ambition
I think so.
Of the American
Let's just
people,
unburden ourselves.
I intend to
By what's been.
an
For
opportunity.
what can be.
Investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting
Like-
seniors, what we can do that
Like
is
daddy families, or what do we, new families?
Doesn't matter.
bringing down the cost of
Can't
living.
ask.
I believe in what we can do together. That is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world.
Crazy to hear a Democrat say that.
Like showing up to the military events where Trump has been, but none of the Dems have been, like that.
Well, she's working on making the military lethal, not so much honoring the.
Oh, okay.
I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA.
We
I
all
was an
know.
attorney
We
general.
know.
They know
That's
I'm a
another drink
senator and
on that
vice
game.
president. I have one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked
What do you mean, you people?
or witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them,
Are you guilty or are you innocent?
Are you
and that's
gay?
the president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus
There's Obama.
on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years.
It's from his
to build
speech.
up our country by investing right now in you, the American
This is not the
people.
Democratic
All
States of America.
Americans.
This is not the
All
Republican States of
Americans.
America.
Yeah.
This is the United States of America.
by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it?
Thank you.
3.5 years.
Just said that multiple times.
3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs.
This is the best part of his entire debate.
She baited him a lot on those answers. ABC didn't fucking
For sure, but this is a great recovery.
Go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack, we're not going to take fossil fuel, we're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice.
We need that tritium cold fusion from 9/11 from 23 years ago.
Get that chick on the phone. Let's talk to her.
Dr. Judy Wood.
Call her. Reach out to her. Let's talk to her.
Fuck it. Why not?
Seriously.
That was from 2012. Like, I'm sure there's been more since then.
Yeah, let's talk to her.
All right.
Jay Wood.
Send it out today.
Well, they're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world.
Got to get our Zoom shit set up.
As a nation, we're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine.
Russia.
That's a new fucking. We gotta save that. That's like China. Russia. We gotta save that hot button.
I hope I hit record.
She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban.
What?
She gave it to
I know I
Afghanistan.
did. I just
What these people
you get to this point, you're like,
You think you didn't hit record?
I know I did.
I've been sitting here for an hour and a half. Fuck.
Criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst.
We get Trump to call us if we didn't hit record.
History of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia.
Thank you, Metaverse Kamala. That'd be awesome if he would have said that.
Thank you for watching here.
Metaverse Trump, Metaverse Kamala, thank you for interviewing us. In another world, we were friends.
That's hilarious.
All right.
All right.
Fuck this thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm
goddamn.
I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it.
Don't say it.
I'm gonna come.
Don't you say it.
He lost. He lost.
I think his closing statements were some of the best arguments he made, and it took less than 2 minutes.
If he could have articulated more of that.
If he would have hammered that on every question.
Yeah.
You want to know about immigration? I don't know. She's been here for 3.5 months and she fucking sucks. She was the border czar. You guys won't say it. Yeah. She was the border czar. And now our immigration is this.
They would have fact checked.
Haitian people are eating cats.
They would have fucking, I don't know if they fact checked her once. They did him at least, I'm going to say at least a half dozen times.
I'm just saying, like, he could have done better.
He should have left Aurora,
he
Colorado.
He should have done better.
He should have left the Haitian food eating dogs. They should have left that alone.
You know what would have been cool if he would have said, hey, listen, we've looked into Aurora, Colorado. We don't know if that's real or if that's not. But the truth is there are Venezuelan gang members living there. That's from Homeland Security.
Yeah.
That's from Homeland.
Yeah.
Fact check that, bitches.
Yeah.
Like, yes, Venezuelan gang members are here in cities, and there's people who live there that are scared of these people, and they're making these comments, and whether it's real or not, who knows?
I think that
goddamn.
I think his team preps him on certain things.
His team fucking sucks.
I don't know if they do because he clearly, he's on Twitter a lot.
Yes.
And he clearly got that story from Twitter.
Yeah.
And he just ran with it off the cuff. And his team was probably backstage like, oh God, no. Like, oh, he can save this if he says this. Oh, he's not going to say that. If he would have just said what you said about it, but he's not, again, he's not educated enough to do that. Yeah. He reads a headline and he's gone.
Here's what I think is a problem is the thing that got people to vote for him the first time, including myself, and I'll tell you right now, I voted for him the first time. And it was because I think America and Americans were at a point where they were tired of the bullshit and they wanted somebody to stand up and say, hey, fuck you. Like,
yeah.
Like you said before, like you didn't vote for him the first time because he was super brash as a president. But I think the reason people voted for him is because people were tired of being little bitches. People wanted somebody to say the off the cuff thing where people like were offended and go, yeah, and I'm going to back it the fuck up. Like, good luck.
Yeah.
fuck you, and I'm going to stand my ground. Like, I think there was enough Americans that were to a point where we were like, yes, I want a president that's got some balls that's going to say some off the wall shit. Now, I will be the first person to say on my behalf, because I can't speak for the American public, but when he was in office, there was times he would say shit, and I was like, I kind of wish he didn't.
Yeah,
he didn't quite say that. I wish he was a little more tactful.
I think a lot of people double down on their support for Trump because when he does things like that, they're like,
yes,
oh, fuck, that's a reflection on me.
Yes,
yeah.
But initially, I think we were at
he got voted in for a reason.
We were at a pivotal point as a country where we were tired of good speakers and soft leadership.
Yeah.
We were okay with a shitty speaker that was going to do some shit and run our country like a business. Like, I think a lot of the people that voted for Trump, I think were in hopes of, now granted, you can take The Apprentice fucking however you want. Buy, sell, you're fired, you're hired, file for bankruptcy. They talked about he filed bankruptcy 7 times, whatever. Like, but I think there were people who were like, hey, let's run this like a business. Let's succeed finally, like for a change.
Yeah.
And that was why I voted for him, because I figured if he can't do it, he's going to fucking hire somebody in the position to do it because he's a business guy.
Sure.
I think there were a lot of good things that came out of that. Excuse me. I think there were a lot of instances where his ego showed that he needed to be in control of everything. He was kind of a micromanager. And I think that was the part for people like myself or like my family or certain members of my family who were very pro-Trump, that we were like, oh, goddamn, like, let that guy do his job. Like, that's not your job. Hey, stay off of Twitter. Like, even if it's AI, even if you have a social media person, like,
I don't think he does.
I don't think he does either because of the way he comments. Like, focus your efforts elsewhere. Like, this isn't your domain. Watching the closing comments, seeing where we're at, I think he could have done better by going back to, hey, you've been in office 3.5 years. You haven't done shit. When I was in office, I did this and I learned this. And you won't. I think he could have done better by going, hey, I've been there. You haven't been there.
Yeah.
You don't know that it takes time to get this done. It's great to say that you have this plan. It's great to bash me on this and this, but I'll tell you right now, it gets 3.5 years to get done, then you're out of office, and then somebody else takes over. Like, I'm going to go back in knowing the plan. No, did I just spit? Or was that my hand? Knowing the plan, knowing how long it takes to get this done, knowing what you can move and what you can't. You have no idea what you're talking about. Like, if he approached this debate with the knowledge he has and not get into the mudslinging,
he can't help it.
I know.
He just can't.
That's why he needs us. But I'm saying that's why he needs us.
I agree.
His advisors, after this debate, I'm going to go ahead and say this. His advisors are fucking garbage.
Maybe they can't control
Who
him.
shit talks
Maybe they can't control
and
him.
plans pranks better than a fire department?
Nobody.
None.
Nobody.
So if it's not me and you, I'm going to say this. He needs to get somebody on the fire department, to be his speech PR guy.
I think it should be us because we might not be the best at everything, but we know the guys to go to. We have the best team.
Yes.
I don't want to say it, but some people say it.
So here's the deal, right? So you asked me this question.
I know the best guys.
I don't know I have the answer you're looking for, but what I can tell you is this: is she sure as fuck doesn't have the answer you're looking for. Yeah. I'll figure it out because I'm a businessman. That's what I do. I hire people to figure this shit out.
Yeah, I'll be real.
I don't know the answer to this. I'm going to hire somebody who does, and I'm going to make sure that we fucking, as a country, succeed.
But she's going to tell you what you want to hear. She's going to tell you what you want to hear. I'm going to say I don't know, but I will get it done.
I'm a convicted felon. I can only contact certain people. I can't come within 500 yards of.
Matter of fact, my ankle brace is buzzing right now. I think I got to get back to the house.
Check with my fucking parole officer. God, dude, like,
yeah, he bombed. He fucking bombed.
He did bomb, and I don't feel like it's his fault.
It's 100% his fault.
No. Now
he's got to take responsibility.
Is it because of him? Yes,
it's his fault.
I don't think it's his fault.
Tell me how you avoid taking ownership of that.
Okay, so I think his ego
which is not attached to him apparently.
No, it is.
Okay.
Led to the reason that it happened, but the blame and the fault lies with everybody he's hired to handle him and fucking handle
I don't
his
think
shit.
anybody can handle
There
him.
is.
Who?
Us.
I mean, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
But I'm saying everybody short of us
Here's
can't.
the problem is he's got people around him going, yes, Mr. Trump, everything you say is good. We look at him and go, nah, bro, that's fucking stupid.
It's ass, bro.
Ass. Fire me. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to go back to my job tomorrow. Like, I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You're dumb.
What are you going to do?
Fucking say that.
You can't put me on the ambo. I mean, you can't do that.
Here's the thing I learned from watching tons of lottery winner videos. You can't hire yes men.
You watch a lot of lottery winner videos?
I'm a fucking dreamer, bro.
But those guys are all losers. They lose all their money.
Because they don't have a no guy.
You need a no guy.
You're my no guy.
You need a no guy.
Dude, I win the lottery. I'm fucking hiring you because I'm like, conspiracy real. And you're like, facts. I'm like, fuck you. Like, you're my guy.
All right.
Your whole family's coming with me if I win the lottery.
Fair enough. Let's fucking do it. On that note,
that's it.
All hail to the new chief, Kamala Harris.
No. And buy lottery tickets. Fuck no.
All right. See you next time.
Hey, let's do this again sometime.
Anytime.